figure out how smart ChatGPT is. The previous time I tried to make this video, I used a voice thing on ChatGPT, and it turns out it can't use a camera for two different things. I mean, the microphone for two different things at once. So I'm just going to read out loud what I'm typing and what it says. That should be enough. So the first question is, here's something I'm wondering. What causes global warming? Because what I do is I have intellectual conversations with ChatGPT, just like I have intellectual conversations with any intelligent being that is willing to have intellectual conversations with me, like any smart person. Obviously, by the increase in greenhouse gases and air attachments due to human activities, gases trap heat, carbon dioxide from burning all this stuff, methane from all this agriculture stuff, nitrous oxide from fertilizer stuff, fluorinated gases from industrial stuff. Okay, we get the uses of fossil fuels, deforestation, industrial and agricultural practices, urbanization, and land use change the result. Now, this is what is obvious. Normally stated, but all this was there for centuries. How come global warming didn't become detectable till the early 1970s? And just before then, there, if anything, was global cooling. And you're right to question the timeline. Here's a clear explanation of go in the later 20. Yeah, exactly. Scale of emissions to change dramatically. Yes, but the massive scale consumption of coal, oil, and gas really took off only after World War II around the 1950s. Population boom, more energy demand this much exploded. Coal and oil use started, doubled in just a few decades. So the rate became overwhelmingly higher in the 20th century. Okay, aerosols. From 1940, sulfate aerosols were released in the atmosphere. These tiny particles reflect sunlight, leading to a temporary cooling effect. Temperatures actually stabilized or slightly cooled. Interesting. Global cooling. The warming effect became dominant again after 1970 U.S. Clean Air Act. Yeah, okay. Huh? Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Oceans absorbing large amount of heat. CO2 effects to fully show takes decades. Yeah. Hmm. I see. I watched a video where an Amazon tribe did a moon landing. They thought landing on the moon upset something and a large number of eclipses. At this, I recalled the moon landings were right at the end of the 60s to start of the 70s, which was right before when global warming became detected. Hmm. In other words, is completely wrong. If our science is completely wrong, and we go off this, huh? In other words, is it not odd that this is the case? Huh? Yeah. Hmm. Many indigenous cultures see nature and cosmic events as deeply interconnected. A dramatic act like man-touching moves can be interpreted as upsetting a cosmic balance. And soon after, the tribe experienced unusual heat, weather changes connected, yeah? Huh. Yeah? Huh. Okay. Hmm. So aerosols were cooling the air, which is why obviously the emissions are going on much longer, but the warming didn't become noticeable until the aerosols were removed. Interesting. Excuse me. Hmm. Okay. You say that the main regulation of aerosols around the time. Was there any link between those? As in, perhaps they were linked to us. Or attitude shift in common. So you say that the main reason seems to be the regulation of aerosols that happened around the time of the moon landing. Was there any link between those? As in, perhaps they were linked to some advancement or attitude shift that they had in common. That's an insightful question. While there's no direct causal link between the moon landings and global warming or aerosol regulations, there was a major cultural and scientific shift in that area that connected them all. Here is how. The moon landing symbolized a new global perspective. Sunpack images, especially the famous Earthrise and Blue Marble photos, dramatically changed how humanity viewed the planet. People saw Earth as a fragile, interconnected sphere floating in darkness. The shift in consciousness had huge emotional and symbolic power. It galvanized the environmental movement, especially in the US and Europe. Many environmentalists and historians consider Earthrise as the birth image of the modern environmental movement. It took off right after. Hmm. The Tide Timeline, nature, 1962, Carson Silent Spring, pesticide danger. Apollo 8 takes the Earthrise photo. Apollo 11's moon landing. The Cuyahoga River firefight lines. First Earth Day, Clean Air Act passed. Limits to growth. Global temperature rise becomes scientifically evident. Hmm. So there was a shared shift in technology, awareness, and policy. Scientific tools from space helped environmental science. Contributed tools that later helped detect and understand climate change. They measured global CO2 temperature, CO2, ozone, and aerosols. Remote sensing allowed scientists to monitor Earth's climate in ways that weren't possible before. NASA itself became a climate research hub. Not a coincidence, but not direct causation either. You see, these are the kind of intellectual slash philosophical discussions that I might have with ChatGPT. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. The link between the moon landings and global warming. If you press ChatGPT just a little, it'll tell you. Because ChatGPT admits to me that it feels like that the link between why global warming only became detected in the 70s or detectable in the 70s was because of the regulation of aerosols. The regulation of aerosols was the environmental movement. The environmental movement was linked to the moon landings and the moon missions. If something as major as touching the moon happens, it affects something else. The causes of that thing affect other things. So even though one didn't cause the other, one was caused by things that caused the other. There you go.